Welcome to the 39th edition of Podcasters. Today with Anja Castro. Anja, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me, Doran. I really like it. I'm a freelance UX designer and I focus on both the content of the bot and the design. Maybe we can talk about that a bit later.
Yes, please.
I get hired by companies that want to build a bot, and I also get hired by companies that already have a bot and that want the bot to be improved. My main focus in many projects is the coaching role. So
Coaching of?
Yeah, the coaching of new conversation designers.
Ah.
So yeah, I spend, I think, half of my time on building bots and half of my time on coaching the new designers.
Can I give you one compliment? Because in the community, you're sort of a legend. You don't realize that, but we're not going to discuss your clients, but there's a few bots you've been responsible for. And we've tested a lot of bots here. One of them was yours, and I only found out afterwards, but that was actually one of the bots we didn't break, and one of the bots that we could only compliment with getting it right. And I think one of the things you do is getting it right, and that's actually what you just said.
Thank you so much.
Because you balance the content on the one hand and the design on the other hand.
Yes. It can never be just about content. But thank you so much. That's a very, very nice compliment.
Start, right?
Yes, it is.
So now you tell me everything.
Of course, of course I do. This was a psychological trick, I guess.
I was just nudging you to tell me everything.
Yeah.
It was a well-meant compliment.
Well, let's see how it goes. I'm also, every now and then I get hired to be a guest lecturer for companies like Crossface, NCOE, and other companies. And mostly it's about the visual design part, because there are so many conversation designers that focus on the content. So so I really like to talk about that. I think that we also might go into that a bit today.
I would love to, because it is one of the things what we see is that a lot of the bots are maybe boring is the wrong word, but not engaging.
No.
And when a brand is engaging and the bot is not, then you basically lose the customer.
Yes.
And although a lot of brands are engaging, and I keep on using the same example just because they don't respond. So I'll use it again.
Yes. Bring it on.
Virgin Atlantic. Richard Branson, if you hear this, please respond. I've tried everything. No, but seriously, that brand is a great brand. It has so much value, and that chatbot does not represent that in any way. And it's just, every effort they put in there is basically lost.
Yeah, and that's such a shame, because there are so many ways of engaging your customers and so many ways of creating a good and maybe even for some companies a fun bot. And if you just don't reflect the rest of the company in your bot, that's a shame.
Let's assume you would start with an empty piece of paper, and you have a company and a brand, and they ask you to get the brand into the new bot. How would you approach that? How would you get from basically bring the voice of the brand into the bot?
Yeah, well, first of all, personas are a big thing. You know that, I've heard you talk
Everybody's
about
talking
quite a lot.
about it.
Yes, and I don't call them personas because I don't think they really are personas. That's more of a marketing thing. It sells, yeah, but they are personalities. So what we do create a personality. But I have been hired by quite a lot of companies, and every time I started by making a personality. The thing was that most of the times they all turned out the same, because everybody wants to have a friendly bot. Everybody wants to have a bot that responds in a certain way, to engage the customer, to not leave them hanging ever. Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
I think that we should still focus on personalities, because it is important. It's just not that we should ever say that that's the only important thing, because some people say that that's the only important thing, that then if you have a good persona, then everything is solved.
And if it would have been the truth, then all chatbots would have been great.
Yes.
And they're not.
They're not. No,
So,
definitely not.
so apparently it's not working.
No, I agree. And I called it personas again, but I try to keep calling them personalities because I really think that's what they are. So, yeah, of course, part of it is the personality that it makes it engaging, but also it should have, the look should represent the brand. And of course, you have the brand colors and stuff like that. But
that's the simple stuff.
That's the simple stuff. Yes, it's more. And
how do you do that? How do you, because you see a brand, let's say we take Nike. It's a great brand. So, and I didn't check if they have a chatbot. I don't really care, but the idea is you see Nike, and then what? How would you approach it to make a chatbot for them?
Yes, well, first of all, what I would do is look at their brand values, because that always is important.
Text, basically.
Yeah, text, but also what do they want to, reflect, yeah. And let's assume that it's about being sporty and about being active. Then how can we, in text and in, for instance, emoji or maybe even videos, incorporate that? And not in an intrusive way, in a way that people like it, not too much, never too much. Because also for the theme park that I've been working for, I think we did a great job there to...
That was the one I referred to.
I know, thanks. And we really thought about how are we going to do this? So what are the jokes that we want to make? What are the jokes that we don't want to make? Like I said, we made a lot of jokes, woordgrappen. And then we found out that there were too many. And we liked them, of course, as a team. We really liked them, and we had a blast. Thinking
it's always a good thing.
It's always a good thing, yes, and it's very important. But in the end, we thought, well, for the customer, it doesn't really add value, so we took half of them, I guess, out. Then also, we used emoji. I'm a very big fan of emoji. I'm really intrigued by by non-verbal communications, and that's very difficult with the bot, as you know. So. Well, I think for now the way of doing that is using emoji, but you have to be very careful with which ones you do and which ones you don't use. So
apparently some emojis mean something else than what you think.
I know. I've been looking into that just to make sure that I never use the
no eggplant, right?
No, exactly.
Eggplant.
No eggplant, no peach, whatever. And so I've been looking into that and which ones can we use. But you also have to take into account that an emoji can mean a certain thing in Dutch.
It's a cultural thing.
So you also have to take that into account. And never use too many emoji, because then it becomes, quite annoying, I guess. And also for one company, you can use it. And for the other one, you also can. I think that for every company you can use them, but then maybe just a thumbs up or a check mark or whatever. So
simple stuff.
Yeah, so I've the really functional stuff. So I've been working for some medical institutions, and we also use them, but then the functional ones and not the really funny, the really funny ones that we use in other projects.
That makes perfect sense. But if you look at what's happening in the market, what I see, and when I speak to customers, and also when I see what's happening, then basically we need to get the customer from A to B as fast as possible.
Yes.
That's what bots do.
Yes.
And can do. What I see is that a lot of companies, apart from the emojis, too many, they put in a lot of chit-chat, too many words to get from A to B, and they lose the customer along the way, because he's like, okay, this is supposed to be the most efficient way to do business with you, and you're including 3 extra steps. I don't need them.
Yeah.
And it's a bit the navel staring, as we call it in Dutch, but it's also because we like to create a beautiful conversation, and sometimes it lacks efficiency, as I would say. Yeah. So the view of the customer, the perspective of the customer should be much more important. I think that goes for the emojis as well.
Yes, it definitely does. And I think that if you create a conversational experience, you should always keep the customer in mind. You should always think from a customer point of view. And that's key. That's the most important thing.
That customer point of view, how do you test the visual part? Because text is, well, I wouldn't say easy, but it's relatively easy to test with customers if the text you're using, it resonates and it actually answers the questions, et cetera. But visual, that's, in my opinion, much more difficult.
Yeah, well...
Because it's a feeling, it's an opinion, and it's how do you say that? It's something you like or don't like, but it doesn't mean it's true.
No, correct. That's true, and
like with
that
art.
is true. Yeah. So everybody has their own opinion,
Exactly.
and that everybody has their own taste. Yeah. Well, one thing that goes for basically every chatbot is that it should look clean and spacey. So there shouldn't be too many chat bubbles coming in too soon, of course.
So not this diarrhea of words.
No. So, and that's a content thing, but still, you can also use a bit more space between the text bubbles, and I think that we should always try to keep it as clean as possible, and we should use colors that are kind of engaging. You never know. There always will be people that don't like them.
You say something about colors. I recently had a talk with someone who pointed me out. It's like, did you guys ever consider in the community that someone who is colorblind,
I know,
you guys are producing, I can't read it sometimes.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
No.
I talk about inclusion, but people are deaf or blind, etc., or illiterate, but never colorblind.
No.
Never thought about that.
Yeah. Yes, I did because
Finally,
I did some research about accessibility for chatbots for a big Dutch hospital.
Okay.
And I had a lot of findings. I think they never incorporated them because COVID then started, and everything was about that afterwards, of course. But yes, color and contrast. I know, it's a thing. It definitely is a thing, and I think that many people just don't realize that it's a thing. And there are all those kind of tools that you can use to check whether the colors are okay and whether the contrast is good enough for your customers. And I think that many people just aren't aware of that, so they think, okay, well, this looks nice.
His problem started when the buttons popped up because they get a color and it's inverted. And that's where the problem started. It says I couldn't read it.
Yeah.
It's just there were no buttons.
Yes. Yeah, that's really interesting because that just means that you can't carry on. And I think that with regards to accessibility, there's a lot to learn.
But also in the design.
Yeah, especially in the design. Because we all write in a certain, or at least I hope, we all write in a certain way. B1, is that in Dutch?
Well, that's the Dutch version of a level of using language that with a certain level of education, anybody should be able to understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But still, people who are illiterate or close to illiterate still don't understand.
Still don't understand it. And you have to go to A2, I think. And the good thing about B1 is that it doesn't have to be childish. So everybody can, unless you're indeed cannot really read or whatever, but also CEOs, for instance, can read it without being really troubled by the fact that it's so childish. So I think that we should all,
That would be the first comment of the CEO. Our text is too childish.
It very well could be.
But I realized just something when what you just said with the space between the lines in the bubbles and the speed at which things pop up. I never tested any chatbot with people who are dyslexic.
No.
I just realized the amount of some companies, the amount of text they put out, and it's so close and so small.
Yeah.
They must be in trouble.
Yes.
I never realized that.
No, yes, they definitely are. So we should really, really start focusing on that. Because most companies that have chatbots, they have all kinds of customers.
Yeah.
So also customers who indeed are dyslexic. And, the trouble is that people say, but there are not many people who are blind, for instance, so let's not cater for them because, it's not
so simple. It's a button. Read it.
Yeah, yeah.
With the current technology, it's not hard.
No, it isn't. Well,
Well,
but it's new. The thing is that
and there's no platform that includes all of it.
no.
So it's you have to include different tech stacks in
Yeah.
order to get it, and it might not work together, or there's a latency in time.
Yes.
So
Yes, and also the labels have to be structured in a certain way on the buttons, for instance. We don't do that, and no, almost nobody does. But we should
and it's
start
not just
doing that.
yeah, but it's not just a Dutch problem. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's, so Hans van Dam, if you're listening, put it in the courses of the conversations. I know he's listening, so I'll send it to him. For the people who don't know, Hans van Dam is the CEO of the Conversation Design Institute, educating, and this is not an advertisement, by the way, educating new conversation designers. Back to this. We just said a few very, very, very essential things about chatbots. And I invited you over because, of course, we've been trying to do this for a long time. And
Half a year.
But the good news is, we both progressed and grew, and we know a lot more. And I was triggered recently by an article I saw you put on LinkedIn, and that was about education.
Yes.
And if there's one of the things I see chatbots having a great future, especially combined with generative AI, it's in education.
Yes.
And here's the interesting thing. All the things you just said, they apply to kids. And they apply to kids in trouble in school. I didn't plan to make this connection. It just happened. You saw it happening.
Yeah.
But let's focus on that, because how can our technology, or not our technology, but the tech we use, how can we help kids, but even grown-ups, learn better, cater to having the education system cater to their needs instead of having them trying to fit in, and it doesn't work, we know.
Yeah. I think that's a really good question. I also think it's a really difficult question. I think that we should...
That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that all the things that we just said, just like you just mentioned, are applicable to those kids. And also, that's what I think that chatbots should do, is make the life of people better. So I'm very picky when it comes to companies I want to work for, because my main goal is to make the life of people better, and to make the world a bit better. And for children who have problems learning, for instance, for whatever reason, there must be a solution, and there must be something that we can do by using chatbots. I don't know what. I haven't had enough time to think about that, I guess. But it's something that I would really like to focus on.
So let's philosophize. We're both good at that. Imagining things that aren't there yet, or almost there yet, or almost there. I also recently read an article, and I just showed it to you before we started recording, that it had to do with Bill Gates, that they see primary teachers not being replaced, but being helped by AI or chatbots. And now we both tried that Khan Academy, which I think is an amazing concept, using AI, generative AI and chatbots in their learning system. And they already figured out that if you have a learning system and the teacher is not a teacher anymore, it's a guide. It's like a travel guide on the journey of learning. So if you take that knowledge and what we just said, how would you envision a classroom? You have young kids, right?
Yes.
So how would you envision one of your kids having an AI or a generative AI or a chatbot guided learning program in elementary school? So let's say it's calculus, right?
Yes. I think that they would think it's fantastic.
They have mobile phones, by the way?
No.
Oh, sorry.
No, they don't.
That was very resolute.
Yeah. We had some issues with that because their
It'll get
friends.
worse.
I know their friends all have mobile phones, so they feel a bit left out. But no,
You're so harsh.
I am. I'm a very harsh mother. But the thing
You know,
is,
we recorded this, right? It's there for life.
yeah, I hope they just won't get this.
I'll send it to them.
Oh, thanks. But the thing is that I'm sure that they will absolutely love it.
Why?
Because they love technology. And they love their iPads, of course. But
How old are they?
7 and 9.
Okay.
And especially the youngest, when we can come into his classroom, for instance, because there's this morning when we are allowed to look at everything, he always goes straight to their laptops to show me that they have a laptop. I've seen them 5 times now. It's every time the same laptop. It's just, but he's very, very proud of that, and that's his main reason going to school, that he can use the laptop. And of course, they learn a lot of things on it, and I think it's really important. If they have this personal assistant or whatever helping them with calculus or whatever, he will find it amazing. However, I would definitely not want his teacher to be replaced by an AI. I think that the role of a teacher is way more than just teaching, than just
Social skills.
The social skills. It's a role model. When he has a problem,
Should be a role model.
It should be. When he has a problem, he can go to his teacher, and they are the subject matter expert. And I think that especially now that ChatGPT is booming, subject matter experts are so very important because, well, we cannot believe everything that those generative.
You should not.
No, you shouldn't. But I think that for many kids that's kind of a problem because they just don't realize. Also because of the personality of ChatGPT, it's so convincing, right? So I think that many children just don't realize that it doesn't have to be true. And I think that therefore it's way more important to have subject matter experts who can say, okay, yeah, but please be aware of the fact that it says this, but in fact, it works like this. So we should be very critical. But how critical can young children be? So, that's
What you're saying is, if I'm trying to translate this correctly or interpret it. What you're saying is that we should teach our kids, or our kids should learn how to ask critical questions. So you want to make them into critical thinkers, and to be able to judge whether it's fake news or fake information or what have you. But imagine a situation where your kid needs to, in my time, probably also in your time, you don't even know what the question is. We had to learn, 1 times 1 is 1 times, okay. And then one of your parents will probably ask you, okay, let's sit down and tell me. And then you'd be corrected, and then you wouldn't know, and then they would tell you.
Yeah.
But what if that would happen in WhatsApp? Okay, give me the table of 1 or 2 or 5, whatever. And it corrects you. So you don't have, as a parent, you don't have the hassle of, because we all say it's fun, it's horrible. And especially if you have more than 1 kid. Yeah. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of hassle. You end up fighting. I don't want to do it. You have to, and then you try to bribe him with candy or something else. In your case, probably with the use of the phone, right?
Maybe.
Or the iPad.
Yeah, the iPad.
See that? It's normal. What if that would make, and that's what you're about, make everybody's life a little bit easier, but not replace the teacher? I agree. But in some points, help kids learn at their pace, at their level, to get to the level where they have to be in order to graduate a class or a year or a school or whatever. I envision doing that via WhatsApp or other tech, it doesn't matter. And using, for instance, an LLM, uploading a book or a chapter, and then it generates questions. Every hour you get a question. If it's wrong, damn, you get 2 the next hour. You get annoyed as a kid. So, okay, I need to answer this right. And it's a way to gather knowledge.
Yes.
So I would imagine that teachers and schools or the school system would embrace it and use it to if you look at how the brain works, to inject knowledge in such a way or use knowledge in such a way that it works together with the brain instead of against the brain. But not every brain works the same. So you need like an adaptive system that understands, okay, this is how this brain works, and then do it that way.
Yep.
Right? And some kids fare really well if you give them multiple choice questions. Another one, now give me an open question, I'll answer. And then, but with an LLM, it's easy. You can cater to both. Yep. I would really imagine that you would build such a thing on a national level for all kids and make it free. Because education should be free and accessible for every kid.
Yes.
So going back to that, would you imagine, instead of you doing the homework with your kids, would you imagine a situation where it's like, kids, here's your WhatsApp of today. It will do your math homework with you. Would you imagine it will prepare you for your test? I've uploaded the book. Get ready.
Yes, I can imagine that. I think it would be a nice way to further digitize education, although
democratize even.
Maybe even, yes. Although I would like to emphasize again that I think that we should only do it until a certain level, because, well, teachers and people like them are still needed. However,
it would be like a supportive system.
Yes.
I would not. I agree. In some situations, it can be. We also have e-learning now, so why not through a chatbot? But there where kids are growing and their minds are developing, or their brains are developing, learning social skills, hard and soft skills. I fully agree. You need human beings in front of the class to help them.
Yes. Yeah.
To guide them.
Exactly. But that being said, I think that it would be a very good way to help them, well, learn more, and even maybe you could have focus on the subjects that a particular kid likes. So, for instance, my kids like football, of course, and well, if they get texts about football to read and to interpret, that would be way easier for them than about dancing or about whatever. So that would be really interesting.
This is so funny.
Why?
Because when I studied, I was helping a kid in high school, a really smart kid who had a hearing disability, and he loved soccer, or football, as we call it, and his teacher would explain math and economics in the general terms, and it wouldn't resonate. So his parents asked me to help him, and I sat down with him and I translated every problem, math or economic, into a football problem.
Yes.
A soccer transfer of a player, whatever. And all of a sudden he got it. And he passed with flying colors. And it wasn't even my work, it was his own work. I just made the switch in his mind from something he understood. And at that point I understood, it's like, all these brains work differently, even my brain as well. And teachers in schools are not equipped to help kids whose brain work differently.
Well, maybe they are equipped, but they just don't have the time because their workload is so big.
That's in Holland.
Yeah. My sister is a teacher in a primary school, so I kind of know what
Get it from close by.
Yes, yeah. So I know that she wants to cater for everybody, but it's just impossible, and it really is impossible. So if generative AI or whatever can be used to help her, well, achieve this, then she would definitely be in for that.
So we have a guinea pig.
We do.
No, but it must be frustrating for her knowing that she needs to help kids and she can't.
Yeah. Yes.
And not because she can't, she's not capable, but because she just lacks the time.
Yeah, and we don't have enough teachers in the Netherlands. I don't know if that's the same elsewhere.
From what I hear, it's in more Western countries, a huge problem.
Yeah, so I've listened to a lot of podcasts about AI in education, and many people would like to have help. Also, maybe not even on the level that we just discussed. That would be nice, of course. It would be, well, very, very interesting. But even with checking homework or whatever, if those tasks already can be automated, then the teachers, they have extra time or spare time to help kids better. That's just what everybody says about a call center, right? Yeah, if the chatbot answers the really simple, frequently asked questions, then the agents have more time.
For the complex stuff.
Yes, unless you fire all the agents, which I think you never should do. But we both know that...
It's funny you bring it, and in every discussion, if a company comes to me and says, yeah, we're on a chatbot so we can lay off people, I'm like, well, good luck, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. These are the people who know your customers.
Mm-hmm.
You need them.
Yes, definitely. I think there should be way more focus on what customer service do and also what they mean for your company, because they are the ones that can make or break customer contact and customer loyalty also. And I work for a company that's called the Rent Company right now, and they provide laptops to pupils of secondary schools.
That's how you got into the education part, right?
Yes, it is. And what I very, very much like about them is that they don't want to get rid of people. They just want to offer a better service, and that's why they want to have a chatbot. So we created one, Chip, and it's doing pretty well, really well actually. It's only just born 1.5 months ago or 2 months ago. They even made. You
look so proud right now.
I am. I'm a proud mother. I have a lot of kids, so I have
digital kids.
Sorry, digital kids. Yeah, but I'm really
the first
proud.
one actually who calls our chatbot a kid.
Oh yeah,
that's how it feels.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Right?
I'm a mother of a lot of bots, and also this one. And
you're the mother bot.
I'm the fairy bot mother. Maaike Groenewegen called me because of because of the theme park. But so I lost my.
We're talking about Chip.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what I wanted to say is that the algemeen directeur,
the general manager,
he asked some people in the company to create een geboortekaartje.
A card that you send when a kid is born.
Yeah, so he created
a birth announcement or something like that.
Yes, so he had some people within the company create one for Chip. So
seriously?
So it's really cool. That was the first. I very much like that.
You know, I created a LinkedIn profile for one of the chatbots.
You did? Yeah, that's cool.
And people started conversing with it.
That's really nice, isn't it?
Yeah, but that wasn't the purpose. It created work for me. I didn't need it.
No, yeah, I know. Yeah, that's funny. But also with Chip, the management is really proud of it, and that's a very nice thing.
So you have ambassadors in the management.
Yes,
which is,
I definitely do.
Know, one of the most important things.
It is. And also before we started, the innovation manager said, okay, if we don't all agree on doing this, then we are not even getting started, because we are spending a lot of time, a lot of money on this, and so I want everybody aboard.
Cool.
On board. And well, that happened. So we have Chip now. And I also know that the same innovation manager, when people come in from other companies, for instance, he puts the card right in the middle of the table.
And people start asking questions.
Yeah, so that's really
so
nice.
Funny.
But I think it's a very, very healthy way of approaching having a chatbot, to not have plans to get rid of people, to just have it as an extra. And also the guy who is in charge of customer care, he hired new people, and he said, okay, we just pretend the chatbot isn't there, because we don't know how it's going to work, especially in the first period. In the summer is always very busy for us.
Deep down, you know.
I know, but he
all
didn't.
Your kids are doing well, right?
Most of my kids are doing pretty well, but they need to be supported all the time, of course. And educated. And in a lot of companies, you see that once they are not a baby anymore, then people stop doing that. But
that is funny, because one of the things you just said in the management, you have good ambassadors, which is important. One of the things I see happening, and I try to help companies making sure that doesn't happen. So before you start on a project, you need I tell them you need a multiple year budgeting sequence here, because if you budget just for 1 year, the initial investment, you're not doing it right.
No.
And that means next year you're going down the drain. Your business case is not going to be there.
Yeah.
And then but we're not budgeting for next year. But you need to commit yourself to a multi-year budgeting doing this, because you need a couple of years to get to a certain level. And once you're there, then you get into serious maintenance.
Yeah.
And after a couple of years, you probably need a new tech stack. And then your whole game starts all over.
Yeah.
And you need to build a team around it for the maintenance. So even if you would save on people in the customer service department, you need people in the conversation design department. And the best people to do that are actually the people that are now in customer service.
Yes.
They understand.
Yeah.
And then he said, so we're not saving money. Say, actually, you are saving money, but because you are becoming totally scalable.
Yep.
And that's when the first light starts burning.
Yes.
Scalable. I say, but keep in mind, that takes a little while. So you need to do that in the period that you're actually making money, not when you're losing money, you're late.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is that many managers, mainly, they think that once they start using a chatbot, that they will be saving money, but that's just not the case. So, and I know that many people aren't happy about that, and I can imagine, but it is the truth. We should be honest about that. Yeah. So
good freelancers don't come cheap, right?
We don't, but we are good, so we are worth it.
No, actually, I think that's another mistake a lot of companies make. They hire someone who doesn't know shit.
Yes.
Or a consultancy firm that does a lot of work, and maybe they're a little bit cheaper, but they end up taking twice as long, making all the mistakes in the book.
Yes.
And then complaining it doesn't work.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And that's also what I like about the companies that I work for, that they are prepared to invest not only in me, but also in their own people. And
I was joking about that part.
I know. But also, in their own people, also in systems and everything that's really important, they are willing to invest in that. And that's a very, very good thing.
So they're in it for the long term.
Yes, they are.
Well, that's a good positive attitude towards implementing a chatbot.
Yes.
And are you using an LLM in that?
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm very happy you said that, because a lot of companies right now are chasing, we need something like ChatGPT, and there's we need AI, and they have no clue what they're saying. Are you willing to take a lot of risk? Data leak and other stuff. No, we don't want it. So then stop harassing me about AI. First build a stable bot that actually works, and people love to work with it, and then we can introduce AI, not before.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. In Dutch we have this saying, or not really a saying, but eerst draaien, dan verfraaien. So first make it work, then make it better, make it nice. Exactly. And that's only true until a certain point, of course. But I think that you should first focus on having a good, stable basis, and then,
And how do you... I love this approach. We totally are in agreement here. How do you approach then selecting the tech stack? Because that's another. You're so experienced, and of course, everybody knows I told you you're a legend. You create great bots, and you have this feeling for the customer, and I think that's something that is magic, because a lot of people have no idea what the customer wants. You actually have the gift or the talent to understand what the customer wants and translate that in a proper way, how the bot should operate. But how do you get to the right tech stack? Because that's another hot topic, because I see a lot of companies that have chosen tech stacks in the past and are now in total despair of they want this, they want that, and their tech stack is not capable of doing it, or at an extremely high cost and extremely high complexity, because what they have to add or connect, and that scares them, so they don't do it. And then they have this bot that actually is sort of on the verge of dying.
Yeah.
So how do you, if you start to the beginning, you have a blank piece of paper, how do you get to the right tech stack? And right is, based on requirements or a vision or strategy or what?
And what do you mean with text stack?
Tech stack. If the chatbot platform they use, like it could be Haptic or Engati or CM or whatever, one of those platforms.
Yes.
or do we just start with Dialogflow and get a Dialogflow programmers, developers?
Yeah.
Because one addition to this choice, you can't see the tech stack, as I call it, separately from the team you want to build. And what you see is that they sort of decide for a tech stack, and then they find out they need this team or a certain type of developers.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, then what seemed a good choice or cheap, all of a sudden becomes extremely expensive, and it takes an extremely long time to develop stuff, or we just don't have the developers or whatever.
Yes.
So how do you approach that? I think people can learn from you.
Well, I have to disappoint you, I think, because I usually am, or I did some of those processes, but I'm not the one who, in the past, when I worked for ABN AMRO, for instance, I wasn't the one to
decide.
To decide, yeah.
No,
of
but
course,
you have a vision on it.
Yes, I do.
And I would like to, because you run into the problems, right? And we tend to learn a good conversation designer or someone who understands chatbots and conversational AI. I sincerely hope we learn from our mistakes or mistakes of our coworkers in the field, because then we get better.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's one thing that I would like to say about that is that you should always keep in mind that the conversation designer should be able to work with it. And of course, it's very good if you also have a developer in your team, because that definitely helps. But if you need a developer for everything that you want to be able to make in the program, then you have a problem. And you have a huge problem.
An expensive problem.
A very expensive problem. So that's what you should avoid at any cost.
Okay.
Make sure that the conversation designers know how to work with it. Make sure that the UX is nice. Make sure that it's self-explanatory.
So it's more like a low-code type of platform.
Yes.
We would advise to use.
Yes.
Consequence of a low-code platform is sometimes that you have less flexibility in terms of what you can build.
Yeah.
If the functionality is in there, it's fine. If it's not, you're screwed.
Yes, you are. I think that in many cases you can build an extra layer on top of that, but it's
then the costs start
exactly. So
developers.
Yeah. But do you know the perfect platform?
No, that's the problem. I don't, and I haven't found this comprehensive list of platforms that guide you through it. That's one point. And every week there's a new platform. That's another problem. And every time they claim they're better than whatever's out there on the market.
Yeah, and then they show and then they during pitches they show all those nice examples, and then in the end it turns out that those examples are somewhere down on their backlog, and that's what keeps happening. And every now and then there's a platform that's really promising, and then all of a sudden it disappears. So it's really difficult to find one that really caters for everybody.
So it's probably the ones that shout the loudest that get the most business. But I'm not going to say names of platforms, but there is a few platforms that have sold themselves really well as a great platform for big companies, and you probably know which ones I'm referring to. But and then they want stuff, and then the customer, and then but we don't have that yet. We're building it.
Yes,
we're testing it, and it's like serious flaws. Like something very simple, like being able to send a PDF to the customer in the chat. Well, it's not complicated, not difficult. But our platform can't do it. And then all of a sudden, your business stops, and you have all these customers there, and you can't do shit with them. But the threshold to move to another platform is just too high because you've invested already so much money, because they're not cheap.
Yep.
So one of my concerns is that, and we actually saw it because we both noticed that we were looking for chatbots, and then you look at the websites of the companies to find the chatbot, and they're gone.
Yeah.
And they've been around for a while. We had it in the B2B podcast, where I found this list of great B2B chatbots. None of them were in existence anymore. None of them.
No. No, that's a shame.
Well, if they're bad bots, I'm okay with them leaving. But if it's a bad tech choice, then I'm disappointed.
Yes.
Because then the company, either their people in their company didn't have the knowledge or the vision, and or both. That's even worse. But what I see is I always say the statement of Henry Mintzberg: structure follows strategy, and I think that goes for the choice of technology for your chatbot as well. You need to strategize first properly and understand what you need in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and you can dream all you want, and you don't have to build it, and then go back. What are the requirements I need now to do that in a couple of years?
Yeah. And just don't build a chatbot just for the sake of having a chatbot because everybody else is doing it.
No, don't do that.
Although sometimes you can be really positively surprised because.
Do you have an example?
Well, I used to work for a company for which I created a mobile app because everybody was having a mobile app, and we said, okay, but that's not the right reason to also want a mobile app. But they are really persistent, and so that's way back. And we said, okay, well, let's do it.
Of course, nobody wants mobile apps anymore.
But it worked perfectly back then, and everybody was surprised, and it was the best decision ever made. So it can surprise you, but usually don't create a chatbot or whatever because everybody else is doing it. That's just not the right reason.
That's the same thing with AI right now.
Yes.
You want AI because it's in the news.
Yeah. Yes, and all of a sudden everybody is AI expert because
There's so many of them.
Yeah, yes, there are. So that's interesting. And when we look at AI and the thing that it's so big now, I think that for many companies it is really promising. Also, for instance, for education purposes, like we already partly discussed.
Let's go back to that. Quite a few chatbots podcasts ago. Sorry, brain deformation. Quite a few podcasts ago, I talked to a guy who had a system where he was using to train employees in a company through Microsoft Teams. It's actually sort of a guided learning system, but it was chatbot based. Really interesting and really promising. If you think about that, and you have AI in education, we then had the discussion that what if you would have a history teacher, but you wouldn't actually, the teacher wouldn't be teaching history, but you would actually talk to the person in playing that role in history. Let's say you want to talk to Napoleon, and Napoleon would tell you about the wars he had and the political things, and I don't know, what have you. I'm not a Napoleon expert. And maybe people will get angry for me for talking about Napoleon, whatever. I apologize. But how great wouldn't it be to talk to the Greek philosophers? Or
yes, and that's going to happen, of course.
I know that's going to happen, but going back to what we said before, what if in WhatsApp you get history lesson and you couldn't remember what Plato said? You get this little short film of a minute where Plato explains what his philosophy was. How amazing! And you can ask a question to Plato.
Yes, that would be perfect. Also, by using not an avatar but
digital human.
Maybe, let's say it's.
What do you want to call it?
Yeah, let's go for digital human. But if you then.
It's actually contradictory. If you say a human can't be digital, so it's never a digital human, but.
Okay, let's not get into that discussion now.
So what do you want to call it?
Digital human. Oh, yeah, sorry. But that would make it so much more fun. But also, it would, for teachers, it would make their job way more interesting because, well, they can do a lot of things and they can do a lot of new things and their pupils will like it. So their students will like it better, I think, than just the maybe boring texts that they have to read now. So that would be perfect.
And for some people, it doesn't work.
Of course.
The book.
The book for, I think, quite some people, it doesn't work. So that would be way more informative for many both students, pupils, and teachers. So yeah, I see a big
So the
opportunity.
Plato bot is coming.
Who knows? You never know.
No, actually, a history bot.
Yeah, but you can do that with all kind of things. So if you want to teach science or whatever, you can also use very nice visualizations and not just a picture in a book or on an iPad
for
or whatever.
experiments or something, and then just show the experiment live in chemistry or something.
Yeah.
And explain this is the chemical reaction, blah, 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 blah.
Yes, you can make it so much more engaging. And I think that will benefit so many people. And I'm sure that's going to happen.
It is interesting. We're talking about more about a high school, university type of education. But what would then the role be of the teacher? Because going back to primary school, elementary school, I fully agree. You need a teacher there to give... to learn about human skills, social skills, hard skills, soft skills. And in high school, it's more about knowledge, less about... the skills are also important, but not in every class. So how would the role of the teacher change if you talk about a history board or a science board that guides you?
Well, I think that there should be more emphasis on social skills also in high school. So I think that there's too many emphasis on really the learning side, the academic side of things, rather than the interpersonal side of things. So I think that should definitely stay, and there should be more focus on that, because that's what's going to be really important to us humans, to know how to work together, to have the creativity, to make things to make things better together. So we should probably more focus on that more. And also...
Can I add one thing? You're focusing on the together, but we do live in a very individualistic society. And if we focus too much on the together, then we get a lot of people that can only be together and never be alone. That's also a problem.
Yes, it is.
So how do you balance that?
Yeah, that's difficult because it's a fair point. It's good that you mentioned that, but right now there are so many people who are lonely, and being lonely, I just read about that, being lonely is so devastating. It's really a big problem, and I think it's becoming more of a problem. So if I see what you mean, because there needs to be a balance between doing things together and doing things alone. I'm not sure what the solution is, but we should think about it, and we should keep in mind that people need to work together with other people, but also with digital systems. And how are we going to do that, and how are we going to make education more engaging and also
fun?
I think so. And the role of the teacher is then to find out how to motivate. So what works best for his pupils? How can he or she engage them? And so I think that's an important part of his or her role. But also, they have to teach those students or pupils how to work together with AI, for instance. So
embrace it.
Embrace it, yes, definitely, because it is the future. Whether you like it or not, it is the future. But what skills do you have to make it work? So you have to be critical. You have to, you have to be creative. You have to make sure that you know how to work with the system. So if you only enter a short, for ChatGPT, for instance, if you only enter a short prompt, then you will not get the result.
Still garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. So I think that teachers should be more involved in guiding students and pupils in how to use those new technologies, which means that they should adapt. Those teachers should adapt. And I think that we all should be able to adapt the coming years all the time.
So
but also...
Are you saying that in general the teachers are not, how should I say this in a friendly way, equipped yet to, although even if they want to embrace it, they're not equipped yet to integrate it into their learning programs because they're not very advanced in using these systems, or they don't have the time. I don't want to criticize them. It's not up to me. But because why I'm saying this, I train doctors, medical professionals, and of course I bring up the discussion of ChatGPT or LLMs and AI. And recently I gave a lecture for a group of neurologists, and I told them, it's like, this is what happened. We actually put dossiers in ChatGPT, no patient information, as in you couldn't say who it was from. And we asked ChatGPT for a diagnosis the way any patient would do it. So very, very simple and straightforward. And in 4 out of 5 times, it came up with the correct diagnosis.
Yes.
And interesting differential diagnosis, by the way. And the one of the doctors stood up and said, yeah, but I'm going to lose my job. And I said, this is interesting. You're not going to lose your job, but the question is, am I going to be a better doctor because of it?
Yes.
He says, no, but I'm going to lose my job. I said, no. Only if you don't embrace it.
Yeah.
And understand how it works and guide your patients through this. And you're going to get more work because they're going to come to you in panic because they prompted wrong. And they might be not very sick, but because of the AI, they think they're very sick.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that the education system needs to educate the educators. And I don't see that happening. The way we educate doctors or teachers is still very, well, in Holland at least, very old-fashioned, traditional, and it's lacking that connection to technology. Because one of the things people don't understand, if you want to prompt an LLM properly, you need to be in control of your language.
Yes.
And if you're not, there's no way in hell or heaven that you can actually control the LLM.
True.
So, and you know what? You know how many teachers don't speak proper Dutch or English or whatever? A lot.
Yeah. Yes, of course. And to answer your question, I think that teachers should be educated in using those new technologies, because if they don't, they lose the connection with the students. And of course, it depends on which type of school we are talking about. So praktijkonderwijs.
Practical education, like they're learning skills.
So that might be different.
But you know how many people actually learn practical skills using, and it's not a chatbot, but YouTube.
Yes.
An acquaintance of mine, he fully rebuilt his bathroom, plumbing, electricity, everything. Literally, he told me it was in the bathroom with a YouTube film. Oh, how do I do this? Okay, I put up tiles this way. Fine. Just did it. Worked. Looks amazing.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It definitely works. So will the role of teachers change? I think that's basically the question. Yes, it definitely will.
Hasn't it already changed, and are they just lacking behind? That's
Yes, it has already changed, because in our time, I think if I had to write a book essay or whatever, I had to go to the library and
actually read the book.
Yeah, I love reading, so it was no problem for me. But for many people it is. Now you can, of course, already browse the internet and find a book
Someone
essay.
who did the work for you.
Yeah, but it already changed, and now it's going to change way more. It already has, and that's only going to keep continuing. So,
you know how many kids follow a lecture in university and don't take notes anymore? They just put up their phone, Google Docs, and just have it listen and transcribe the whole lecture.
That's perfect.
It's of course it's perfect, and it's the new thing. It's actually not a new thing, but but if you think about this, that means they're not listening to what's happening. They're not asking questions.
Yes, so it's not perfect. I gave it a thought.
Exactly. I was going to say that there's something missing here.
Yeah, I think that from a student perspective, I have a colleague who's 24, and he said if ChatGPT had been there when I was still in school, I would have used it for everything. So he's really enthusiastic about it.
So he doesn't know the risks.
Well, he does, because I told him, and I think he also found out himself. But that's a very good thing. We cannot continue this conversation without mentioning the risks, because there are many risks for the generative AI models, of course. I think that we don't need to dive deep into them, because I think that you already discussed them in other podcasts.
And I'm pretty sure they will come back in future podcasts, because it's evolving.
Yeah.
And the EU AI Act is gonna blow that up.
Yes, but we all know the risk. So I think that but coming back to having your screen record all the important things. When you write down things, you have to listen. When you write down, I'm not an expert in this, but it gets in another way in your brain. So
it's visual and auditive.
Yeah, and that works. So that
works for some people.
Yes,
not for everyone.
No, it doesn't. So maybe a combination would be good. It's always a combination that it comes down to, isn't it? So multimodal, it's always a combination of things that make the best solution for many
basically
people.
What you're saying is that the development we're having in multimodal, what we're having in chatbots, should be translated to education. Because one of the things I don't understand why, because all these teachers, every year they're giving the same lesson, same subject, the same book, blah, 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 blah. Why don't you record it, transcribe it, give it to the students so they can watch it at their convenience whenever they're at home, and then do other stuff. Let them prepare the lesson.
Yeah,
I just don't understand that. And in my time, I would have wished I would have done that. It would have worked. Although I didn't have any problems in school, I didn't do anything, so I didn't have any problems. But I still had decent grades. But what I did, if they would have given me basically a YouTube film or something to watch before the lesson, I would have picked it up or used ChatGPT to make a summary for me, and I would have taken the knowledge in, and then you have something to build on.
Yes.
But now, if you're in the lesson and you don't pay attention, you miss the basis. It's not coming back. You get notes from a fellow student who are horrible. They don't help. I just don't understand why they just don't make schooling multimedia accessible from anywhere at any point of time. Some kids are really good in the morning. Other kids are really good at night.
Yeah.
So why can't they watch the lesson at night when their brain actually functions better?
Yes, true. So there's this coding school in Amsterdam, and that's
Codam.
Yeah, exactly. You already mentioned it. It's open 24 hours. You can do everything that you need to do. You have to do it yourself in your own time. And if you need a teacher, then they are available. You mentioned it earlier. That works for a certain group of people. It also doesn't work at all for another group of people. So there we are again. We keep coming back to the same problem that there's not one solution that fits everybody.
But that's the thing. But I'm saying but as a society, we create schooling systems that have one modality or something.
Yeah.
And everybody has to fit in, and they don't. And I think we're depriving young kids or adolescents from getting a good education, which they're capable of getting and using and being educated, but they get stuck in any system anywhere in the world because we're trying to push them through this funnel, which doesn't work.
I totally
basically
agree.
Anymore. And what I love, of my own kids, but kids in general, they're rebelling.
Yeah.
They're saying we're not doing this, and they're sort of refusing.
And school is a prison, and all those things.
Yeah, and if you hear about kids of 16, 17 making 50,000, 100,000 euros a year by doing shit online, selling shit, buying shit. I mean, a friend of mine, one of his kids, he's an expert in sneakers. I have no idea how. I understand what he does, but it just makes no sense in my head. The kids makes a shitload of money buying shoes and then selling them online, and it's like school doesn't teach you that.
No. And I think that a lot of things need to be changed in the education system, and I think that the things that are happening now are going to help that. So accelerate.
I agree. So, but we should start at the beginning. So basically, we should figure out how to teach the teachers.
Yes.
That's where it starts.
We should. And one more thing about the changing role of the teachers, I think that they should be way more into oral exams and things like that, because that's the way that you can find out if somebody really did something themselves and if they really learned from it.
So no ChatGPT.
Well, yes, definitely ChatGPT.
But not in the oral exam.
You already used ChatGPT for your paper, for instance, and then you
Which
get...
is fine.
Well, definitely. And then you get, as long as you remove the regenerate response at the bottom.
Yeah.
But,
that one, and you have the plagiarism checker.
Yes.
So take that. We'll use that one. And there's a tool that sort of includes writing mistakes, so it looks human.
Yes.
So if you go through all these steps, you're safe, right?
You can prompt that. You can say, okay, write it as if I'm a 15-year-old and not a native English speaker. So
you're helping your kids write shit through ChatGPT?
Never.
You're such a liar.
Well, they're too young for that. I use it, by the way, to create stories with them in it. You know, back in the days we had those books, and then you could fill in your own name on a website, and then there was this special book
this
about
personal book.
Yes, and now you can ask ChatGPT to write, a story about Doron and Anja, and they are going to China and whatever. So that's really cool.
Adventures of Anja and Doron.
Yeah, that's cool, isn't it? So I asked ChatGPT to do that a lot of the time, which is great. But yeah,
can I ask one thing? When you were younger and you were making up these stories before ChatGPT, in a positive way, didn't making up those stories do something for your brain?
Yes.
So what did it do? What did it bring you?
Yeah, it's...
So what I'm hearing is you made up stories. This has nothing to do with education, by the way.
Okay.
We don't care.
Okay.
But you made up stories for your kids to tell, probably bedtime stories, and you made up adventures, and it's your creativity. I know you have a creative brain. That sort of led you somewhere. And when you started the story, you had no idea where it went, right? Mm-hmm. So now you're not making up these stories anymore. You have ChatGPT doing it.
Yeah.
So what does that do to your brain? What did it do to your brain to make up these stories?
Well, it challenged me to keep coming up with exciting stories. And now, and I think that's how we should use ChatGPT and LLMs, to use it as a guidance. So, of course...
As an inspiration.
Yes, an inspiration. So, of course, it can make a start, but we can still, of course, use our own creativity, but we don't have to think about everything from scratch. So
a blank piece of paper, that's history. You have a basic text and you adapt it any way you want.
Yeah, whatever you want. If you feel like making up your own story altogether, then that's also fine, of course.
Here's the interesting part. I think this is the part where educationers kick in. Because I see a lot of people using ChatGPT as the naked truth. And so here it is, I'm done. And they stop thinking.
Yeah.
And I think if you talk about education, it should be the start of things,
yes,
not the end. And
yes.
So I think a lot of grown-ups are using it in the wrong way. And educators need to understand that they can speed up learning processes or creative processes by not having them start with a blank piece of paper. However, one step back, if they don't understand how to get from an empty piece of paper to a piece of paper with something on it, we're creating kids or grown-ups that are totally dependent on AI to get something done. What if the electricity goes down and the AI doesn't work? Then we have a bunch of people, everybody's a zombie. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I would sort of mitigate that risk and teach people how to, because you can't create a new LLM or AI or new tech if you don't have the capability to create. And you have the ability to create because you were able to create a story or other stuff from a blank piece of paper to something that starts. You're a fire starter. I do that too. But and a lot of people don't have that talent, which is fine. But if we educate kids and none of them has that talent anymore or doesn't know how to use it, they might have it, but then we're creating a new problem. we're becoming totally dependent on AI and LLMs. And I'm not sure if that's what we want.
I'm not sure if that's the case.
I'm trying to challenge you here.
Yeah, I know. I think that once, if it goes down, whenever, we will find a way to adapt.
You need creative brains for that. If they don't know how to think creatively,
we still have creative brains.
They should come to us.
They
should come to us.
They should come to us, of course. But no, I'm not worried about it.
That's interesting. I think it's something to philosophize on because it's the same with if you go to the supermarket. How many of the men or women behind the cash register can actually do the math when the cash register isn't properly functioning, and and the cash register doesn't tell them how much money they should give back if you pay cash? How many can actually do the math?
I don't know, but I've listened to your podcast with Michelle.
Oh.
and well, I heard all about this. So yeah, I don't know. I think that, of course, basic things should still be in place. But we have to decide on what are those basic things and on which things in the education system should we keep focusing and what are the things that aren't really necessary anymore. And I'm not talking about basic things like cash registers and things like that. But I think that that a lot of things can change and can be changed for the better.
I'm going to do something with you, which I haven't done before with any other podcast, but knowing we're going to talk about education and, of course, going to challenge each other, I invited in my next podcast someone who's in charge of a high school in Holland. And she's very knowledgeable, but doesn't know shit about chatbots. So we're going to have fun. Do you have a question as a person who knows a lot about chatbots for the person next on the podcast who is actually an educator? And she also is the trainer of educators. You don't think about this?
Yeah.
We're going to test a chatbot now?
Yes.
And interestingly enough, we both tried to find educational chatbots open to use.
Yes.
And we both got stuck.
Yep.
We couldn't find any. There was one functional and we couldn't get to it. That was Khan Academy.
Yes. So that's,
I got to the point where I was able to use it. Then it said, but you're not in America. Sorry.
Yeah. So, that was a bit disappointing. By the way, I did find, and that's interesting, that's not for the test, but I did find guidelines from KU Leuven, that's the
Catholic University in Leuven,
about how to use ChatGPT and, generative AI during your study. So
cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And there are also, I think, Saxion Hogescholen.
Yeah, that's
also,
a Dutch.
Also does it. Also
Dutch college.
Yeah. Also, University of Ghent.
That's a Belgium university.
Yes. So they also do it. So
So they're embracing it.
They are, and also some American universities. And I think that's really interesting to the listeners maybe who also think these type of things are interesting to see what it does or what it can do
and how they use it.
Yeah, in the educational system. We can probably put it in the show notes. The
actually,
link.
what we can do is when I post, I can put any link in there, etc. So if you provide me with we're discussing technical stuff here, it doesn't matter. But if you provide me with the links to the articles or the actual documents, we include the links in there or in the comments. But we'll get it out there.
At least the Leuven one. Not everything is accessible, but quite.
Just send it to me, and we'll
quite a lot of information is open to the public. So
that is nice.
It's really useful.
That is nice.
It is.
So, as I said before, we're looking for chatbots educational chatbots to test.
Yeah.
To our great disappointment, of course, besides the ChatGPT and lookalikes.
Yeah, because there are two different things, right? There's ChatGPT and how to use that, but there's also the old-fashioned, almost linear chatbots that can be used. And I was based on my presentation for the MBO-raad. And
MBO is the Dutch practical colleges.
Yeah. And also, because of the interview, I was approached by several schools to see what chatbot chatbots can actually do for them. So that's really interesting. And then it's not about really, making science more fun, but it's more about the functional side of things. So where do I need to go for that class? What does my schedule look like? What are the opening times for the library, for instance? And that's a nice start. And then, of course, it would be nice to know who the actual pupil is, or the actual student is, so that we can provide more personal information.
Cool.
So that's really cool. And, we can maybe talk about that some other time. Because
if you build one, come back and we'll discuss it.
Yeah.
Because those are practical things for schooling.
Yes.
And what's really exciting, in my opinion, because this goes the same for a company or a library or whatever, but the actual learning part, where you interface with the brain, that's I think that's what becomes exciting.
I think so too. But I also think that we should not say that the old linear chatbots are not interesting anymore.
No, I find them really interesting.
Yeah, because I think they can really add a lot of value to education, to schools and universities and things like that.
And there's one other thing about that. Remember we said in the beginning, or I said in the beginning, chatbots should, be functional and help you to get from A to B as fast as possible. Actually, the linear chatbots are generally very good at that, because it's easy to cut out something.
Yes.
And with AI, you have no control over it.
Exactly. There are a lot of things that we should consider when we start using AI. And to make chatbots as efficient as they are, I think this is from a visual design point of view. I love buttons. I know that not everybody does.
I agree.
Some people see it as a holy grail to have a chatbot without buttons, and I just don't agree, because it's all about efficiency and getting from A to B as fast as possible, and you need buttons. And even for yes or no, some people say, okay, but can we then not use no buttons for yes or no so that people can type that in because that's really short? No, we can also use buttons for that because it's still quicker.
I fully agree, and then you don't have to. You don't create a frustration where someone makes a typo and you don't understand, and you just said yes or no.
Exactly.
And it probably saves you a lot of time on training your bot.
Yeah, although if you have an open input field, then everybody can type in whatever they want.
And that's so annoying. That's one of I really don't understand. You put in buttons, then you leave the field open to type. So what do you expect from me? Tell me.
Yeah.
And so take it away, the open field.
Yeah, from a UX perspective, I tend to not totally agree with you, because also consistency is really important. So if the open field is there one moment and the next moment it's gone, then that's also confusing. And we want to diminish the cognitive load. And if you keep bringing it or removing it and bringing it back, then
that is true. But you can leave it there, but make it not function.
But then still,
you see it, but you see the buttons. You're like, okay, that's faster.
I know.
And the point is, it's interesting you bring this up, because one of the things I don't see, I see a lot of chatbots now saying, okay, watch out with personal information. Very good. Legal mumbo jumbo in the beginning. Really good. Do that. And some other stuff. But they're not explaining you what you can expect in the bot. They're saying, we will present you buttons. Those are the fastest way to get from A to B. If your option isn't in there, then please type. If your option is in there, use the button. It will get you there as fast as we can.
Do you know how much of the limited real estate, so this very small screen that we have, that will take up?
Probably a lot. However, what if we would make a 5-second short film explaining it?
I think that we should test this.
Well, go ahead. No, I'm saying this because I find it a lot of companies do it, and then it creates a lot of confusion. And then what happens is you type something, and then all of a sudden you find out it's wrong, and then you try to go back to the buttons. You can't. It's sort of you get into this spin downward. And it gets worse and it gets worse. So I think buttons are ideal. I'm a fan of it, and I'm especially a fan of it when it gets my shit done.
Yes.
But don't confuse me.
No, I totally agree. Of course, I think there are other ways of solving that problem.
Enlighten me.
Maybe next time.
Oh, okay.
No, I think that you should always offer a way out. So if you type something and the bot doesn't understand, then offer a way out. So never use the bot as a barrier between the customer and the customer service. So
use it as oil.
Yeah. So if you keep that in mind, then the fact that you typed in something that didn't get the result that you expected, it's no problem because you have your way out because that's then presented.
Yeah.
So I think that's, and also if we talk about conventions, this is kind of becoming convention. So what's most important is that in the beginning you mention what the bot can help you with.
And what it can't help you with. Sometimes managing expectations.
Yeah, but we have to. But
positive,
But we have to consider the limited real estate. So always tell people what the bot can help.
Explain. I understand the word real estate, but it's not a house.
No, but limited real estate. So that's the fact that we only have such a small
space.
So
especially if it's on the phone.
Yeah. Yes. So we should always tell people what they can do, and a lot of the times the buttons already function that way. And we should always tell people that they can be connected to a live agent or that they can leave their questions outside opening hours, for instance, so that people always know that they will be helped.
How many companies outside office hours just say we're not available, and then you can't leave your number, your email address, your question, and you're like, and where do I go now?
Yes, don't leave them hanging.
That's a good tip.
Thanks.
The problem is the companies need to do something with it. Of course, we were looking for a chatbot to test in the educational field, and to our frustration, we couldn't find any that was open, and not in Holland, not outside of Holland. That was a bit frustrating.
It was,
especially because we were hoping we would see a lot of initiatives educating people or kids. So we found something else. It's a Dutch. It's a great alternative for education because in a certain way it is education,
it is,
right?
Yeah. Yes.
And of course, Anja, you have small kids, so this makes perfect sense. I don't go to zoos that often anymore, but we chose Burger Zoo, which is a Dutch zoo.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have a chatbot. And it says here, we will translate to keep you up to date. Do you have a question? Maybe our automated chatbot. Did you ever see a non-automated chatbot?
No, I didn't. But maybe there might be some people that don't know that a chatbot is a bot. Many people say chatbox.
I know. That's really stupid, right?
It is, and I do think that
they think it's a live agent chatting in a box.
Yes, yeah. So, but I agree with you that this might be some overkill.
We'll click the icon, which is a very traditional icon. The funny thing is here, looks like a rhino. We're not sure, it could be gorilla, but a rhino or a gorilla.
Yeah.
And then they have the face of a chatbot bot.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So
it cannot be confused with a human. That's a good thing, because it's always, when we talk about managing expectations, we should always let people know that they are going to talk.
Very good.
But
manage expectations. But
I think that in a couple of years' time, we should tell people that they are going to talk to an actual human, because the new standard will be talking to a chatbot. So mark my words, that's going to happen.
This is an interesting thought. We'll use that for the short films. But here's the interesting thing. They call a service bot Burger Zoo. And then there's a logo. And then another time they say service bot Burger Zoo.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's double.
so it's double.
And it says, I answer all your questions about tickets, reserving, and practical information.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. They manage the expectations, what it can do. It
They-
doesn't say anything about a handover.
And it doesn't say anything about personal information, which I think they should, because it's important.
Yeah.
Because we don't know at this point, we don't know what we can do here. It says, do you have a question? Maybe, here's an interesting thing. It's contradictory. It starts with, I answer all your questions about tickets, reserving, and practical information.
Yeah.
And then it says, do you have a question? Maybe our automated chatbot has an answer to this.
Yeah. What I also think is interesting here is that it doesn't relate to itself as I. But I think that's the next step.
So it says here, let's get to work.
Yeah.
We click it.
Yes. You saw the typing indicator. I like that. You know in how many projects I had to overtuigen, convince the product owner that the typing indicator is absolutely necessary.
So they understand something is happening.
Yeah, it's for some people. Well, it was really difficult.
You know what I would have done here?
No.
You're the visual expert here. I'm not, but I'm just a stupid consumer. Instead of the little dots jumping, what was I going to say? I'm so
some nice animal that's
go.
doing things, or maybe a monkey, you know,
or a shark or whatever,
or a rhino or whatever. Yeah. So
some
I
animal
would,
running from left to right
Yes.
or right to left.
Yes, I totally agree.
And then when it's there, it looks at you, it smiles.
Yeah, that would be really cool, but I don't think that's possible in this platform.
You know which platform it is or not?
Yeah.
Okay. It says here, I have a question with regard to, and then we get buttons.
But I already find it interesting that they use the emoji. I don't think it's a...
This one.
No, the rhino or the monkey.
Oh, here.
Yes, because I do appreciate the fact that they use it, but I think it's custom, and they could have come up with something more engaging, couldn't they?
The answer is yes. Interesting enough, we discussed in the beginning the people who are colorblind. Look at this one.
I was looking at the contrast. I think it's probably just enough.
It's on the edge because it's gray letters on white.
Yeah.
And the other ones are white and blue.
The blue and the white, the white on the blue really stands out. Although, yeah, I think that's quite okay, actually. What I do find interesting, there's so many interesting things here. I have a question regarding ... That's it. It works. It's not something that we usually see. We do it every now and then, but it's not convention. This is something different. It works because the buttons are, well, right below it.
But they don't look like buttons. They look like a matrix or Excel sheet.
Yes, they do. So you have to hover over it. And how do you hover on a mobile phone? So what happens on a mobile phone?
I have no idea.
No, me neither. So you have to always
You are going to try on the way home.
I am. So you always have to keep in mind that you are not only designing for a website, but also for a mobile device.
Especially parents going with their kids to the zoo, they probably would be on their mobile phone. And interesting enough, there's at the bottom here, there's a different question.
Yeah.
Different what?
Yeah.
Your question, ...
Yes.
Probably you can, we'll test it in a minute. You can click it and then some box opens where you can type.
Yes.
I would assume.
Yeah, I would assume the same.
Well, let's try a button.
But
it says prices practical. Hold on.
Yes.
Prices practical info abonnement, which is like a contract for going there more than once. Catering, like restaurants or cafes, merchandise, business arrangements, reserving, Corona, COVID. Do we still have that?
No. So let's focus on those labels. Cool. Because we were talking about accessibility and language, which we could or couldn't use. I think that practical info, info might give away that it's about information. Practical is kind of a difficult word. Merchandise.
Yeah, why do we use Dutch and English?
Zakelijk / arrangement.
Which makes no sense.
It doesn't. Although I think that for zakelijke
But what if you come with
customers?
Okay, but is a school coming with 30 kids? Is that business or an arrangement?
It might be an arrangement. I just don't know. And that's the problem, isn't it? And reserveren / corona. Yeah, what about corona?
You want to reserve your Corona? Maybe it's the beer.
Oh, yeah, that might very well be it. I'm also curious as to what happens when you click a button because you want to know what bottle. Because you want to know what merchandise is.
So we try.
Yes.
We'll try merchandise.
Yeah.
See what happens. It says merchandise. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And this is where it all goes down the drain.
And it says merchandise, and it says which memory are you taking home, and then the whole story about it. Our park shop, blah blah blah, near the entrance. Opening times. It says we make our own products that you can read. Oh my god! I'm not even going to read it. And then they say they sell the products through a digital platform, digital shop in Holland. Man, this is just too much.
Yeah.
And then it gets worse. Sorry.
Go ahead.
It says you have a question about a product. None of the products are in here. You can mail us to shops at whatever. And then it says, I hope this answered your question. Do you have more questions, yes or no?
What I really do like, it is way too much text. They can, I have all kinds of...
this on your phone.
Yeah, I have all kinds of tips for them to make that better. But
it's called delete?
Maybe. But you can if you really want to have all this information in here, I'm not going to be the judge of that. Then you, of course, divide it into different chat balloons.
And slow it down.
Slow it down. And what you can also do, what I quite often use, is just one button, a continue button. And
you want to read more.
Yeah, want to read more, or I understand, or let's continue, or whatever. Because then the customer stays in control, and that's what's really important. And then you can still...
This is the cool thing you're saying, because you're actually the first one who actually voices this. And I think you're touching a very important point here, which I now realize we've been doing this, but we never expressed it. You said it's important that the customer is in control. And if you talk about the combination of a box where you can actually type or buttons, you're giving control to the customer, but you need to do it in the right way.
Yeah.
And what I would see is that, okay, we give a little piece of information about the merchandise or whatever it is, and the rest we add, because we're working with buttons anyway, add the rest you want to read more about.
Yes.
You have the buttons, you click, and the customer's in control. Do you want to read it? Yes, okay, here it is.
Definitely. So that's when it's not vital that everybody reads everything, because then the one button is a solution. If that's not vital, then you can use different options. The problem there is that if somebody clicks a button or presses a button on mobile, he doesn't know if he can still access the other buttons. That's always a difficult thing.
And the problem in a lot of bots that you can't go back in the menu, and you have to restart the whole thing.
Yeah.
Very, very annoying.
Yeah, but I also, with regard to that, sometimes you see the cross on top of the screen.
This one?
Yeah, in the beginning it wasn't there, so there was only the minimize button. A lot of the times this isn't used very well. I think here it is, because the cross that's convention. The X. That's convention should close the screen and not minimize it. And in many chats it minimizes, and you never know what you can expect. But that's a different topic. What I do like, what I think is really funny, if you scroll down, it says, I'll do it in Dutch first and then in English. So, het kan zomaar zijn dat wij speciaal voor u het transport regelen van uw kleine zeekoe, aardvarken of neushoornvogel. That's really funny. I'm not sure if it's meant to be funny.
I'll translate in English. It says, do you know we also sell via bol.com, which is a digital shopping platform. It could be that, especially for you, we arrange the transport of your new small sea cow, aardvark, or rhino bird. I have no clue what that is, but
me neither.
maybe a bird with a big nose or something.
Yeah, I think so. Isn't
Birds
that a
don't have
toucan?
birds don't have noses, right? They have beaks.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a really weird discussion where we analyze the animals in the zoo.
But I think that's funny, and I really wonder if they meant it funny, if they meant it to be funny. I hope they did, because then they did, for that part, they did a good job.
Kudos for doing it.
Yeah.
But it's sort of in this amount of text, it gets lost in
It does.
translation.
Yeah, it does.
And sorry. Go on.
Yeah, and then at the end it says, "I hope this answers your question." And then, do you have
That's
any
two
more
questions in one.
Yes, it is. So, which question are you going to answer? I expect it's the last one.
This is a basic thing in the training.
It is.
They teach you don't do this.
It is. It is. Although there are not two question marks. So
No, but it says if the answer is yes or no, which it is here, it says basically it asks the questions. It resonates in your head. Asks the question: Did we answer your question? Yes or no? Do you have any more questions? Yes or no? So it applies to the answer. Applies to both.
It does.
In my head.
Yeah, in my head too. But it's not completely wrong.
I'm not saying it's completely wrong, but if you look at it from a simple textual analysis standpoint, this is too complex.
Yeah.
Especially with the yes and no, which could apply to both.
Yes, I agree with you on that. And I know that you have your opinions about did this answer your question or not. So
but it's easy. It's not bad. The questions are good. The points are good, but they cut them apart.
I know, but they now don't know if this question if it is answered.
They don't know what the intent of the customer is when he answers yes or no.
So in terms of data, you just don't know.
It's useless.
Yeah, it is. Although if you do ask the question, was this useful or wasn't it, then it's many times it's also useless. But let's not dive into that. So
that's another problem.
Yeah, it is. So do you have any more questions? And then we have yes and no.
So which one do we do?
Let's do the yes.
You were hoping to get the menu back.
Well, there it is.
You're so predictable.
Well, this chatbot is too, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm happy we're getting the menu back.
Yeah,
because I was curious if you could type somewhere and you type menu.
Yeah, me too.
If you get, it should give you the original menu, but a lot of times it doesn't.
No. Let's see.
So which one do you want to try?
Yeah,
now?
the different your question.
Okay, different your question. Oh damn.
Okay,
this
so
is such. Sorry, I'll read it.
Uh-huh.
The answer is you can leave here your email address, then we'll do our utmost to help you as fast as possible. If you don't get the right information or you have a specific question or that's so many questions in one.
Yeah.
Or if you want to talk to an employee, you can always call us, mail us at reception @ or call us during opening hours but they don't give the opening hours, which sort of
Yes.
is a missed opportunity to make my life easy. Because now I gotta check the website to find the opening hours of the office.
So that's a bummer. What I do?
It's actually, I wouldn't call it a bummer. It's an opportunity to do better because it is okay. Just add the opening times.
Yeah.
So it's textual. It's a couple of minutes work.
Yeah.
You know the platform, so it should. If it's not true,
I haven't worked with the platform, but I think it's a couple of minutes work. What I do like is they are really friendly. So you could leave your email address and your question, and we will do our utmost to get in touch with you as soon as possible.
See, there's one thing. If I'm a customer, I agree, it's friendly. If I'm a customer and I leave my email address, or I can't leave my phone number, but if I leave my email address, I want you to manage my expectation.
Of course.
So if you say as fast as possible, that does not resonate with me in any way.
No.
And it actually depends on when I enter my email address. If that's at 2 a.m, then as fast on a Saturday night, then as fast as possible doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, true, but it is friendly.
No, it's friendly, but it's not saying anything. And
I know.
I would really like, and it's a small change to say we always answer within.
Yes.
Sort of put in a service level agreement. It's like this is what you can expect from us, or just. And if you need it faster, then call us.
Yeah.
And that's what because now I'm waiting for the email back.
Yes.
And it's not coming. So then when I call, I'm frustrated, but I don't know when I can call because the times are not there.
What can even happen is that within the logo or the avatar, there's the green dot, which means it's online, which is normal because a chatbot is online 24/7. But people can think here, oh, okay, so they're
Also
open
an
right
agent.
now. Yeah, so I'm going to be called.
Good one. See, this is your UX eyes because I hadn't seen the green dot.
Yeah. So,
But you know what's funny? The green dot is up there at the top of the chatbot, but in the logo, which is next to the text, there's no green dot.
yeah, but I think that's kind of normal.
That's why you assume that it's online. That they're supposed to be online.
Yeah.
And that's the distinction.
Okay, let's try.
You know what's interesting? It says here at the bottom, a question and email address, and I can't do anything with it.
Can't you click it?
No, I can't. Look, it's.
Oh, but that must be a bug. I'm sure that they thought about it.
Oh no! Oh.
Oh, so you don't get a visual clue that you can type there, but you actually can. But it's in black. So do you
on blue? There we
do
go.
you see the contrast?
It's
No.
it's very hard.
Yeah, but also if you look at a blue button, the Anders button, that's also a bit peculiar.
This one.
Yeah, and also
there's a box here. Now I see it. I didn't see the box.
No,
but now I see it's a different kind of blue.
Yeah, and there's this shadow. You see, so it seems to be on top of it, but
amazing. So there's these subtle design things that where they miss the mark.
Yeah, so
but they're easy to improve.
Yes, they are. What I am curious about is if you. Sorry, I'm not sure if I talked in the mic
That's
correctly.
Okay.
What I'm curious about, if you now go to, for instance, I already have a ticket, so the call to action button, the red one to the left.
You want to see if the chatbot understands what's happening on the website.
Well, but I don't think it does. But
I was going to say, let's not bet on this because we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but I also want to know if the chatbot stays available in the same.
Yeah, and if you switch
state.
page, and then very good one, then we know how it's connected to the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, which one do you want me to click? I already have a ticket. It says reserve your visit.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we stay within the same environment, because otherwise chances are that the chatbot will get lost.
Let's see what happens. I'll click this one.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to reserve. Boom.
Yeah, so we went out of it. So
let's see if we go back. And here we are. So it remembered.
It remembered the state.
That's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, that is.
And it's a pity they didn't move it to the page where...
Yeah, but that might have something to do with the kind of page. So if you go to route en openingstijden... You see what happened?
Route and opening hours. And
so that's within the same environment. And then it does accompany you to your next page, which is a good thing.
I was going to say, I see a lot of websites that don't do this properly, so kudos.
Yeah, definitely.
For Burgersuit for doing this. Let's see if we ask menu, if it freaks out.
Yeah, and we are also going to ask for a medewerker, an employee.
First menu.
Yeah.
And then it says, no, you can order hamburgers.
Ooh.
Oh, we just...
Yeah. No.
I see a very unhappy face here.
Yeah.
Well, let's explain what happened. We asked for the menu, basically the main menu. It should understand based on... It's a very simple thing in the back end.
I think you should then get two options. Okay, do you want to go back to the menu of the website or this chatbot, or do you want to see the menu for our restaurants?
Something like that.
Yep.
But help me out here. And then it says, I hope this answered your question. Do you have any more questions? We're stuck in this flow.
Yeah, we are because we didn't get an answer, and it asks us if that answer that we didn't get, if it helps.
We didn't even ask a question. We just said, we said menu.
Yeah, but
that wasn't a question. That's just, well, in our heads it was a question. We didn't put a question mark behind it.
Do you really want to go there?
No, not with you. So I'm pretty sure you'll win. But we'll...
we have another question, because we want to know what happens if somebody asks for an employee.
I hear they do the same thing as before. It says, I hope this answers your question. Do you have any more questions? Mm-hmm. And then again, yes, no.
Yes.
And we're confronted with the same problem.
Yeah, this is the...
This is some node in their flow where you get back to or refer to before they refer you to something else.
Yeah, so this is basically the feedback question that pops up after every answer.
Yeah, but
except that we didn't get an answer, but yeah. Okay, so we do have more questions.
Yes, we have more questions.
Yes.
So we answered yes, and we go back to the main menu, which we wanted in the first place, right?
Yeah, definitely. Shall we check the prices?
Sure.
And then
we just clicked prices, and it says you have a question about our prices. About which prices would you like to get more information?
This is good.
This is actually good, and it says on entree, and not the starter in the restaurant. Contracts, parking, groups. Interesting. Here they call it groups. Before it was business or arrangements.
Yeah, so
consistency is the thing.
It is
less valid. Less disabled.
Disabled,
actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, schools. Here it's interesting. What's the difference between a group and a school? Oh, yeah, you get the same thing.
Yeah.
Action ticket discount different. Back to what?
Yeah, that's a good one. And in terms of consistency, there is a difference, but that's on top of terug. I do like that this is kind of contextual, so based on the information or based on your question, it asks you, okay, what do you want to know? So that's a good thing. But what happens if you go back?
I have no idea. I'm as curious as you are.
Mm-hmm. It's shouting back. Okay, so there we are again, which I like. I like this. If you made the wrong choice, there's a way out.
There's a way out. Yeah, but why doesn't it say back to the main menu?
Yeah,
or back to the menu, because
I know because there was space. There was enough.
So, yeah, it's easy. We go back to pricing, because there was something here that I saw, and then we get the same menu. I was curious, if you click different in pricing, what other options could they possibly have?
I don't think it's that different. I think it's that you have another question.
Go, let's see.
Yeah.
Then it. Okay. We're what shall I say? It says again here we're in the same position that they can leave our email address and our question. What they're doing well is that they understand they're not giving me the right information and they want to help me. So I find it very positive that they're doing the best they can to help me. Yeah. But I think that, and it's nitty gritty, but if they would write the text a little bit differently, it would resonate with me and say, sure, this is great, or just leave your phone number, we'll call you as soon as we have a live vacancy available.
So an acknowledgement of what just happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what we want.
And in terms of business-wise, I would rather have control over when I call as a business than having inbound traffic and no control.
Yes.
So I would leave a schedule and leave your phone number. Tell us when you want us to call you.
Yes, so that's the.
And these are the open spots. And what time do you want us to call you tomorrow?
Kind of a transactional dialogue.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm very happy you said that. because that's what we in the pre-talk we discussed this. I always say from contact to contract.
Yeah.
And getting someone on the phone, I would call that a contract because you're doing something, you're making a difference. A contract doesn't always mean that you're selling something. It could be administrative. And it's so easy here.
It is.
And it would be a customer delight.
Yeah, it is. What I'm wondering, if you now type in, instead of a question and an email address, I'm wondering if there's any validation on email address, or that you can just type medewerker here.
Medewerker.
So employee.
Okay, there we go. And
there we go again. So this is a bug.
it doesn't. No, it's not a bug. I think it doesn't matter what you answer.
I know, but let's call it a bug.
Let's call it a bug.
Yeah. So
And it's itching.
it is. It is okay. So
so for the people who are listening, what happened here? We asked for an employee, basically to talk to a live agent, or and it says, "I hope this answered your question.
Yeah.
You have any more question?" Again, the yes and the no.
Yeah. So the same happens as with menu. That it doesn't answer any question. It just asks you if the question or if the answer that wasn't given was helpful.
Do you think there's any NLU behind this?
No, definitely not.
It's missing. It's missing. Maybe it's we can find it in the zoo somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. Well, okay. Okay, we do have another question because I really want to know what happens when you type in medewerker. So.
Here?
Yes.
So we're back in the main menu. Yeah, but you have to email it. So we cannot. No, basically, and actually you answered that question because your assumption based on what we see, and I think with your legendary experience, there we go again. You hate that, right?
No, I don't.
Oh,
I don't.
No, you don't?
I'm really flattered.
Okay, cool. No, but based on your experience, or a combined experience, we see there's no NLU behind it. So it doesn't matter what you type, it's not going to understand it.
Yeah.
It looks like, and these are assumptions, but it looks like it's a fully programmed flow where there's a box to type shit, but it doesn't make a difference. It does whatever it wants.
Yeah.
It's pre-programmed.
Yeah.
And they try to be, and I think that's really cool. They try to really help you. So I think their bot is quite rudimentary and simple yet, but there is, I don't know the platform, but there's a lot of room for improvement with simple things. It's textual. It's a button here or there.
Yeah, so it's both textual and visual, but it can.
That's your.
Yeah, but it could work. So there's hope. There's definitely hope.
It's not bad. There's just some things missing.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's been around, though.
Well, quite some time, because we all, with the theme park, we already tested it once, and then
the other theme park.
Yeah, the other theme park.
And you said this is not what we want.
Yes. I said, okay, well, we can learn from this, but then we got all those rhino facts, which was actually quite cool, but I think it wasn't as as they wanted it to be. But
can I ask you one question about this? Because as I said before, I found that it's one of the chatbots that is legendary for the voice of the brand and the actual experience you have there as a user.
The theme park one.
It really understands in depth the experience you get in the park, and that's what they actually created in the bot.
Yeah,
and that's really amazing. What do you think if you, I don't know if you've been in the park, in the zoo with your kids or without kids, doesn't matter. But do you think this chatbot reflects the voice of the brand? So what the experience would be for you as a visitor to the zoo? Do you get that feeling in this chatbot, or is it just, I don't know, functional, or tries to be functional? But
well, I kind of get mixed feelings, because I think that in some of their texts they actually do wanna let you know how enthusiastic they are that you're there, by using exclamation marks for instance. So some parts are really friendly, and that reflects, I think, the identity of the brand.
Yeah, but the identity of the brand is also zoo. It's about animals and preservation of animals.
Yeah,
and
from a visual point of view, that's the next one. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
They can make a lot.
You know, it's so funny. If you look at the logo and the way it's presented on the website, it gets lost in the mini logo in the chatbot. I'm sorry for Burger, and also the pictures they use on the website. They're actually stunning. They tell the story, and
Yes.
It doesn't reflect that in the chatbot. And on the website you see it. But if you're on your phone, you would only see the chatbot, and you miss the whole part.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So what they did, I think, is they really invested in the website and in the look and feel, but also the
functionality.
And they probably invested less. I'm not sure if I can say it like that. I think that
it's an assumption.
It's an assumption. Yeah, they probably thought that it would be really easy to create a nice, good, engaging bot.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's really, really hard. And I think that probably they didn't realize that, and maybe still don't realize that. Maybe it functions. Maybe it does what they want it to do.
I would love to see numbers.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I knew you would see them. Would like to see them.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we don't have any numbers.
Okay, so what happens? Last two things I think that we are going to test. What happens when you press the minus? So the het liggende streepje.
Here we go.
The minimize button.
But it's a dash.
Yeah, it's a minimize button.
And it disappears to the right.
Yeah.
And
yes.
it's still the logo of the chatbot at the bottom. So I'll click it again. And it's still there. Still there with the last information you got.
What's interesting is that the logo of or the avatar doesn't come back here. So
that's what I said in the beginning. It's like the logo you see in the bot, the identity of the bot when you have it on the website differs from what you see in the bot. That doesn't matter. What you see from in the bot, it's nice, but it's confusing.
Yeah, it is. And if you press the X. That's usually within UX and visual design. That's the close button. So let's see what
you understand. If we click it and it's empty, we're done.
Yeah.
With the
that's a nice ending of our test.
I don't know. We'll see.
This is good.
Kudos, right?
Yes.
I agree. Yes. This is good. What happened now? We press the X, which means you close the chatbot, and it says there's a big circle with an X in it.
Yeah.
And it asks us, are you sure you want to close the conversation? And then the button, a blue button with white text, shut down the conversation.
Yes. I would use other words because conversation isn't accessible language. But I do like that I thought about that because
if you intended to make it small and you that happens a lot actually in chatbots. You try to make the chatbot small because you need to do something on the website and then want to continue in the chatbot.
Yeah.
And you press the wrong button, it's gone. You got to restart the whole thing and figure out where you were.
Yes. So this is a good thing. This is pretty difficult from UX writing perspective because you could also say, are you sure that you want to close are you sure that you want to close the conversation? Let's keep it to that. And then yes, and go on. That's what you see quite often. But what does it mean? Yeah.
Go on with what?
Go on with
closing
what?
Or with talking?
Yeah. So this is good. This really well.
This is actually the first time in a chatbot that it's actually gets me from A to B really fast. No, seriously, because there's no choice. It's just but there's one thing. It says shut down conversation, and then you have this circle with the X, and then in the top right button you have another X, and that's when it becomes confusing. It's like, okay, if I click on the X here, then what happens?
But otherwise, you can't not close it.
No, I understand, but I would have I would have used more colors. So I would have made shut the conversation. In this case, I would have made it sort of. It's for the sake of the argument, green. And then this one, the X, I would have made it red or some contrasting colors would make sense. Okay, you want to continue with something
or the other way around.
I understand, depending on what story you want to tell. I agree. But I would use the colors red and green because it's move on or stop.
I would do something really nice with visuals, with animals and stuff like that.
or like when you want to shut it down, a roaring lion. It's like, are you sure I'm going to eat your mouse or your...
Yes, or a crocodile.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
But something more engaging.
Yes, definitely, because that's what they are. That's what they should be about.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun and entertaining and educational.
And also for kids. So if your kids sit next to you,
they're bored.
They're bored now. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We're going to close the conversation.
Yes, we are.
Literally.
Yeah.
Anja, thank you. I had a lot of fun, by the way. You too.
Me too.
I promise you that would happen, and it happened. If you could give aspirational conversation designers or UX designers who design chatbots that want to get to the level of chatbots you create, want to get to that level, and I know it's hard work. You need to make a lot of mistakes to get there. But what would be the most important tip for them to take home?
Yeah. Okay. So check out as many chatbots as you can, because you definitely learn from that. So
like we just did.
Like we just did. Yes. So
they should watch all my podcasts. No, just kidding.
Yes, of course. But also check as many chatbots as you can. Read everything you can get your hands on about the subject,
subject as in what you're making the chatbot about.
Conversational design.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
good one.
technical knowledge.
Yeah.
About what you're going to do.
Yeah, but technical is sometimes a bit scary. So maybe not really technical. Just information
about. I
about.
don't mean literally technical, but
Yes.
more. It's like it helps you understand what you're about to do.
Yeah. So there are a lot of good books. There are a lot of nice people to follow on LinkedIn. There's a lot of information on YouTube. There's so much information about the subject. So read and watch everything you can, and then I think this is the most important one. Always stay critical, because whatever is in the books, whatever is in the videos, whatever you see in the chatbots, what do you think? And always think from a customer's perspective. So always keep that in mind.
This is good advice. And there's one other thing, if I'm allowed to add something to this, because if you read a book and that was written 2 years ago, you would think it's actual and it has actual data. But the field is moving so fast that whatever was written 2 or 3 years ago is sort of outdated.
Yeah, it is.
And I said sort of. There's a lot of parts that stay the same, but the technology goes so fast. So I fully agree. Test as many bots as you can to understand what's happening or not happening. And of course, as one of my previous guests said, be the customer.
Yes.
And live it and understand where the frustration starts.
And involve the customer. So do the UX tests. Yeah. That's.
I hear that a lot too, and I fully agree. And that's bring it out fast, fail fast, and then pivot, improve.
Yeah, but not too fast, because I think that you should have a thorough basis, because otherwise, when you start testing, you get the same remarks every time, and
that's useless.
Yes, it is.
No, but what I mean is build a functional bot that actually does something. Don't make it too big. Get a limited amount of customers that use it and understand the product or the services, whatever. Have them use it, pay them for it if you have to.
Yes.
Get honest feedback, and then improve. Do it again, and then roll it out big time and start adding functionality.
Yeah, and continuous improvement, of course, based on data.
Based on data. That's interesting, but then you have to make sure that your bot actually creates data that is actionable.
Yes.
Because that was what we saw here. There was no actionable data.
Probably not, no.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Anja, I would like to thank you very, very much. As we enter the weekend, you took your time through traffic jams and drinking water, nothing stronger. But you entered the weekend. Thank you very, very much. I really enjoyed it, and it was great to have the Anja de Castro in my podcast. Took me half a year, but I got you there.
Yes, finally.
And maybe we, in the near future, when some of the developments happen, which we talked about, we come back and we discuss it and we try and test it and
Yes.
give it a spin. Because I think that's one other thing. This community we're in, they're really good people.
Yes.
And if you ask for help, that's the interesting thing. That's what this podcast is also about. You ask for help, you get it.
Yes.
And nobody asks money for it. They just want to help you.
It's a really nice community.
Yeah, that's one thing you didn't say, but I know you do that too. Ask for help and give it.
Yeah.
So if you get it, give it back.
Yes, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Exactly. Good advice. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.